Hey guys, Trav here from Hacksmore. Today we're going to be building a progressive web app using Ionic. Now, progressive web application is really just an application that's delivered through the web, and that means they can be built on web servers or they can be built into apps for iOS or Android. So let's kick it off. First off, let's build an Ionic app. So I'm going into my programming directory for Ionic 5. Typing Ionic start to kick off the project creation process, selecting Angular, putting in test, and then let's see, we'll select the conference application, which is basically the Ionic demo. And this will then go away and get all the information that it needs, download it all, and start building. Alright, so application's now built, download. Now let's do some serving just to test out, make sure it's working. So to do that, I type in Ionic serve. This will then start the Ionic's internal web server and deploy it and build it to our local host. Okay, so it's now compiled successfully and now be deployed onto our local host. Alright, so here's our web application. It's just the sample. Basically it tells you a little bit about the app. Let's add Google Chrome tools, the dev tools, and that basically helps us see what it looks like in the screen of an iPhone. You can see I've got skip and the buttons and dragging, scrolling, all works as you'd expect on an application. So let's go ahead and build it for our Android phone. So to do that, we add Ionic App add Android. This copies in all the capacitor stuff that basically brings native functionality into Android. Alright, so if you get this capacitor error, basically it means that the build hasn't taken place and capacitor can't find the www directory. So let's do an Ionic build. Alright, so our build has now finished. We can now add that capacitor command again to install capacitor for Android. And we've now added all the code in for Android, so now let's use capacitor to open our Android Studio so that we can build it on a native device. So here's Android Studio. You can see I've plugged in my device already up the top there next to the app, and that you can still see that Gradle is running a build at the moment. So Gradle's got to do some syncing with all the Ionic software, and then we can build it and deploy it to our device once that's done. Right, so it's now deployed to our native device, and if I fire up my screen share, you can then see what's happening on the native device. This is the capacitor web app. This is what it looks like natively. Now, because this is a native web app, what it means is that the code is actually being generated via JavaScript, HTML and CSS, and what that means is that we can actually deploy it onto an external web server. So if I fire up my IDE and go into test, see that there's a directory not called source, called www, and this is the generated code. And in here there is an index.html file. If I click on that, you can see that this is the code, and what we need to do is modify that bit of code called base href, and that will be modified to point to our directory on our web server. So let's fire up our web server, and I've just got a simple small Raspberry Pi just for this demo, and I've set it up on a DNS, and so I'm now connected to that. What I'm going to do is copy across my files from that www directory into the web server, and then I'll put them into the web serving directory on the web server. Alright, so now I've got all the files copied across. Let's go into our directory. Let's go into our www directory. So you can see I've copied way too many files. I only need this www directory. I don't need the source. Alright, so this is my web server directory var www.html. drag the www directory that we copied across from the original machine. Create a new folder, call it test, and copy all of that into test. Slowly the files will pop up. It's a fairly underpowered Raspberry Pi machine, but it'll work for our demo. Let's go find the index file. There it is, index.html. Let's edit that. Once it loads up. And now we might need to modify our base href to include that as test. Let's save that file. And shut it down. Alright, so this is my server, just set up in ddns, and here we are with test. If I open it in with the Google DevTools, you'll see that it looks identical to what we were displaying on the app. Click on skip, there's all our scrolling. So you can use this if you want to deploy your app either to a web, or if you want to share it with a client and basically say this is what the design looks like and let them have a play around with it.